that your very existence hinges on the acceptance and affirmation of other people. And so your not just like your identity, but your life itself, your very life, your very existence, it depends on other people affirming it. And if they don't affirm it, then they have caused you to not exist. And to those of us who are sane, that it sounds crazy. We can't wrap our minds around that. That's what these people believe. That's what the ideology teaches. It's what the media has been saying. It's what the schools have been saying. It's what Democrat politicians. It's what the president used to say under the old regime. This is a message that used to come from the White House all the way on down, that if you do not affirm these people, and that is to say accept their delusional perception of their own of themselves, then you are killing them. And so when you go to people who are already in the throes of this inherently violent ideology, they're already delusional, they're deeply confused, and then you tell them that, hey, those people over there, if they don't accept everything you say about yourself, they are killing you. They are a threat to you. They're committing genocide. They use that word, transgenocide, and they use that label against Charlie. They've used it against me. They've used it against you too. That is not, now we kind of laugh it off because it's silly. It's ridiculous. Genocide. What the hell are you talking about? But the people that they're telling that to believe it. They believe that we are literally committing a genocide against them. And so when you do that, when you go and tell people, these people, if they don't affirm you, they're killing you, they're committing a genocide, and then one of those people goes and kills one of the people that you made that claim about, it is 100% also your fault. You intentionally caused that. You might as well have just told them, hey, go kill that guy. Because that is, in effect, that is what you said to them, and that has been the message. It can't be stressed enough. That has been the message, not just from the left-wing fever swamps on the internet, but all from the very top of the Democrat leftist pyramid on down. That has been the message, and so they own this. They own all this.
And by the way, this individual, I'm going to say his name. I chant. You are my rage outlet, so just keep rage tweeting, please. Because, but he was bragging about it, and there, before it happened, he was saying this, there was people with foreknowledge, and they didn't come out. So shame on them. I hope they burn in hell. We'll be right back.
Said this before, and but it bears repeating. The last message that Charlie sent me was, I think it was just the day before we lost him, which is that we need to have an organized strategy to go after the left-wing organizations that are promoting violence in this country. And I will write those words onto my heart, and I will carry them out. If people ask me, what emotions I'm feeling right now, it's just something people say. I mean, you kind of know the answer. There's incredible sadness, but there's incredible anger. And the thing about anger is that unfocused anger or blind rage is not a productive emotion.
Right.
But focused anger, righteous anger, directed for a just cause is one of the most important agents of change in human history.
Charlie showed that. Amen.
And we are going to channel all of the anger that we have over the organized campaign that led to this assassination to uproot and dismantle these terrorist networks. So let me explain a little bit what that means. So,
I've got 30 seconds, so be quick, Stephen.
The organized doxing campaigns, the organized riots, the organized street violence, the organized campaigns of dehumanization, vilification, posting people's addresses, combining that with messaging that's designed to trigger and incite violence, and the actual organized cells that carry out and facilitate the violence, it is a vast domestic terror movement. And with God as my witness, we are going to use every resource we have at the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, and throughout this government to identify, disrupt, dismantle, and destroy these networks and make America safe again for the American people. It will happen, and we will do it in Charlie's name.
So, Ben, I want to go to you because, again, you're the lawyer here. He mentioned terror network, domestic terror network, and with Luigi Maggioni, the news this morning was that the judge dropped the domestic terror sort of angle to the prosecution. Is this legally defensible? Is this just a New York bad judge?
I haven't actually read the decision from the judge or the rationale for it. I do not understand how it's not just clearly first-degree murder. I mean, it's obviously premeditated murder. So dropping it to second-degree murder as though it's a crime of passion is totally crazy in every possible way. And again, when we talk about people who own it, Bill Burr shouted on multiple shows on national TV, "Free Luigi." When we talk about inherently violent ideologies, it's not just the trans ideology that is inherently violent. If you are a person who says the existence of wealthy people is a threat to me, that they are killing us, that there's a group of people and they are manipulating your life such that you're poor and they're rich and they are harming you. They're actively harming you by their very existence. The billionaires are actively harming you just by existing. They are evil by their existence. Then why should we be surprised when healthcare CEOs get shot on the streets? And then there's a post facto, after the murder, justification in the same way that you saw with Charlie. There is something so hideous that has been bred on the point I've been making on my show is typically nobody gets shot over marginal tax rate conversations, right? It's not as though every political debate in America ends with somebody shooting somebody else. But there are particular types of political debates in America in which one side sees fit to murder the other side. Yeah. And it is baked into those ideologies. And so I don't want to hear this nonsense from Democratic politicians who just generically denounce political violence. If you are unwilling to say, as a Democratic politician, for example, Donald Trump is not a fascist. When you talk about thought matrices that create violence, if you keep calling Donald Trump Hitler, everyone said this, it's true. If you keep calling Donald Trump Hitler over and over and over, someone might think, he's Hitler. And what do we do with Hitler? We try to shoot Hitler in the head.
Yeah.
On
your both sides point, Ben, there's this meme that's come out. Seth Moulton, this Democrat congressman, goes on TV, he's been spewing this, that the vast majority of political violence in America is from the right. And when I heard that, I said, well, look, I don't know. I haven't looked at the statistics. Maybe that's true. It doesn't ring true to me, but maybe it's true. So I go and I look into the statistics. And I say, oh, there's this study, that study. So I said, okay, well, let me just look into particular cases. There was an event a couple years ago at University of Pittsburgh. 2 Antifa operatives show up. These are members of an Antifa go to Antifa meetings, were caught going through TSA with explosive material on them multiple times, still allowed to board the airplane. They set off an explosive at the event, and it was over the transgender issue. Injured, very seriously injured, a female cop at the event. I looked into that. I said, well, this would be an example of left-wing violence, right? No. It was not classified as left-wing violence. It was pled down. It was classified as obstruction of justice, not included in any of the stats. I looked through some other cases.
Covenant. They treated Covenant as a non-left-wing attack.
They said that the shooter was seeking fame. It was not a left-wing attack. This is a transgender ideologue shooting through a window of a church and murdering kids. So I realized the way that they get away with this is very simple. They don't count the left-wing violence.
Correct.
It's a completely bogus statistic. And so to your point, Ben, yes, you have to call this out. To Stephen Miller's point, this is largely organized. There are groups that fund this, that promote this, that publicize this, groups with foreknowledge of attacks. This is organized. And our government has taken on organized crime before, taken on the mob, taken on terror groups, taken on all of these things. We have the ability to do that. It is not only our right through our representatives, it is our responsibility to do that, to restore order. And if we are not treating this as an organized, criminal, political threat from the left, then we are just twiddling our thumbs.
And the left will always be more violent. I mean, it's not even close. They have a near monopoly on political violence on the left, especially over the last 10 years, in particular over the last 5 years. They have a near monopoly on it. And there's also a reason for that, which is that, and there's a reason why conservatives generally don't. There's, to your point, everyone's mourning, no one boarded up their windows. Not only was there no rioting, nobody was even worried that there would be. Everyone just knew that there would not be.
Right.
Meanwhile, if you were to flip it around and somebody of Charlie's importance and status on the left were to be assassinated, God forbid, we know that immediately all the windows are being boarded up in every major city. And the reason is that the left, they are enemies of civilization. They hate civilization. They hate Western civilization. They want, and this is kind of words that they use, dismantle. They're always talking about dismantling.
Abolish.
They want to dismantle. They want to tear everything down, and they'll tell you that: tear down, dismantle, tear down, tear down the patriarchy, dismantle the white heteronormative, whatever, the family. Whereas conservatives, what are we most, like, at its essence, what are we trying to conserve? We're trying to conserve civilization, Western civilization in particular. And we have disagreements about how to do that and all of that. There are certainly disagreements about that, but all of us are fans of civilization. And so we just inherently recognize that when you see a guy walk up to a healthcare CEO and shoot him and kill him in the street, you cannot have a civilization if that is allowed to happen. If we get to a point where that just happens and we're okay with it, then we don't have civilization where we have a third world country. And so conservatives just fundamentally recognize that is a bad thing. Where on the left they don't recognize that. And it's hard for us to wrap our mind around this as normal people, but they do not see civilization itself as necessarily a good thing. And so to them, violence is, and if you're looking to tear down civilization, then violence is always going to be a tool in that arsenal.
I think there's actually a deep nihilism implicit in that doesn't exist on particularly the religious right. And the reason I say that is because if you do, as Charlie believed and as all of us believe, that there is a God-centered universe, a God-ordered universe that, for the most part, we can discern. Right? Not all of it, obviously. We don't know why horrible tragedies, horrifying things happen. I mean, everyone is suffering with the aftermath of that. But there is, in fact, a God-ordered universe, which is certainly something that Charlie believes. If you believe that, then you also believe that you have a duty in the world to act within that universe in rational ways, and you have duties to God to do the things that God told you to do, including things like don't kill people, don't murder people. And if you don't believe any of that, if you believe that the world is just a system of power, that every argument is just a guise for power, right? The sort of Michel Foucault argument, that all arguments at their essence are just a way of me getting power over you, then the response to an attempt for me to get power over you is to use power in response. And that leads to revolutionary violence. And we've seen periods like this in American history. It happened in the early 20th century. It happened again in the 1960s. And I fear that we're headed into another period like that with a left that is so nihilistic in its desire to see every argument. This is the thing they were trying to silence with Charlie, really more than anything else. The thing they were trying to silence with Charlie was the argument. It's the thing that he died doing. They didn't want him making the argument. Yes, he was an amazing coalition builder. We've talked about this. Yes, he was an amazing political activist. The thing he was killed for doing was making the argument. Mm-hmm. That's what he was killed for doing. There are lots of political activists, and some of them are quite effective. He was killed for making the argument. Why? Because there are too many nihilists on the left predominantly who believe that the argument is just a form of power that is to be met with a bullet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Charlie, and I, again, there's so many things that are going to haunt me, I think. But he, in the last month, I would say multiple times, one of the most common arguments that he was warning everybody about was America has two roads ahead. We have the fork in the road is MAGA or Magionism. And he would use that more than Mamdaniism, right, which was the more common, I think, refrain from most. And that's haunting. And I hope that, we have a joke around here. It's like, how many times Charlie's proven right? How many times he told us something and we're just like, gosh darn it, he's right again. And obviously this is something he would have never wanted to be right about, but he was. And I think in his memory, we have to do everything we can in our power to make sure that the country does not fray. And I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Charlie he wanted revival. He didn't want revolution. He wanted the blood of Jesus. He did not want blood in the streets. And he wanted a country his kids could inherit and be prosperous and thrive and go to church and love their spouses. And that is not the tone that we are getting from the American left. And I found that, you brought up Hassan Piker. I do have a clip that I don't know if you guys want to play it. I'm of two minds of it. But, he's basically saying, you've got to gutting your opponents. Liberals, left-wingers, you need to be showing your opponents guts. You need to be gutting them. You need to be shanking these somethings and letting their intestines just ride on the stage.
Soak the streets in blood, I think, was one of his phrases.
Slice and dice them, he said.
And that guy is in the New York Times, so he's not a fringe player. The New York Times featured him twice in the space of a week, twice. This is the great exponent of rational debate that they've got on left. Ours was Charlie, and Charlie was murdered. Their great exponent of rational debate is the guy who says slice and dice your opponents and leave their intestines writhing on the stage.
And who won't be doing any of that himself, by the way.
Correct.
He will stay in his comfortable studio
in his $1 million mansion as a socialist.
Right.
Yeah,
But he'll offer up whatever leftist lunatic will take that and run with it. He's fine to just offer that person also is a human sacrifice for him. The person that person kills, most especially, but the person who carries it out, because now they're like, they go to prison, and Hassan Piker gets to keep living his comfortable life.
But the people, we respond in a cultural way, which is very important. We respond in prayer in a spiritual way that's very important. But we can't neglect the political either. And when people violate the law, when people incite violence, when people engage in direct threats, when people do things that are illegal, it is incumbent upon us to prosecute them, including those people, to the fullest extent of the law.
Amen. We'll be right back.